strip search of the 15-year-old girl in Hackney. To remind you of the background of that, teachers thought they could smell cannabis about the girl's person. They inspected her clothing, her bag, her shoes. There was none. They called the police. 4 officers attended. 2 of the female officers took her into the medical room without talking to mum or dad, otherwise unaccompanied, and then made her undergo the most invasive of strip searches. I'll maybe share a little bit more with you on what they did exactly in a moment. But apparently there is, some say, a positive. This is Equalities Minister Kemi Badenoch addressing this issue in the House of Commons yesterday.
What we cannot do is stop any bad thing from happening to anyone in the country at any time. That is a bar, a threshold that is impossible to meet. But what we do know is that everybody is rightly appalled and outraged by what happened to ChildQ. That is an example of a country that cares about ethnic minorities and about children in the system, and we will continue to do everything we can to support them.
Let's turn first to Maurice McLeod, who's social commentator and chief executive of Race on the Agenda. Mr. Mann, we talked on many occasions about this. Do you see this as a positive? Morning to you.
Good morning, Nick. I think it's a really strange take on an awful incident to suggest that it's a positive. I mean, I'm really surprised at the Minister for coming out with that suggestion. Yes, people are appalled. They're appalled because it's appalling, not because that doesn't mean, oh great, at least people are angry. It's a terrible thing to happen to a young woman.
What do you think my listeners need to take away from this?
Sadly, I think for people that I guess that do the sort of work I do, this just reaffirms what we've been saying. It's not about an individual officer. It's not about an individual teacher in this case. There's a system that happens. There's 25. The Met strip search 25 kids in the last year that we've got details for. 60% of those were black kids. That's not an accident. It's what we're trying to say is this stuff happens systemically, and we really do need to acknowledge it and tackle it. Not sort of go, oh great, everyone's cross. That shows that we're nice people. That's not enough.
What would be enough?
What would be enough would be to do what campaigners have been saying for ages. We really do need to relook at how we police in this country, and we need to look at our drug laws as well for another thing. But we need to relook at how we police in this country, so that what's broken down is the bond between some communities, and the police. And all we see is people wringing their hands and going, oh dear, this is terrible, let's have another report. Nothing ever changes. This is, I'm old now, and I've been saying, we've been having these sorts of incidents forever. Nothing changes. So what needs to happen is an acknowledgement of the problem, which I'm still not really hearing from the government. You can't fix what you can't see. So first of all, let's acknowledge that this is happening and this is a problem, and this isn't 1 or 2 bad apples. This is a systemic thing. Let's acknowledge that. And until we do, we're not going to get anywhere near fixing this.
Lastly, and those with younger ears, you might want to cover them up because I'm going to briefly outline. Maurice McLeod, if this were a 15-year-old white girl who had been asked to go into the medical room, strip naked while she was on a period, spread her legs, open her buttocks with her hand and cough, do you think that would have been done to a white 15-year-old?
It's so distressing to hear, even just hear you recounting what happened to this young woman. This should not happen to anybody. This shouldn't happen to anyone, regardless of their race. Let's be honest, if this had happened to, a white middle-class girl, people would be marching on Downing Street.
Maurice McLeod is a social commentator and chief executive of Race on the Agenda. To Dr. Tony Sewell, as chair of the Commission